Shut it back. Words of refrain, something like a bat. Well, I want your love, call me when you can. Girl, going up, going up.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be going into another deep dive, and this Pokemon is going to be Azumarill, a very highly used Pokemon in the Great League by a lot of players, and that's mainly due to the coverage and typing of Azumarill, and we'll get into that right now. So Azumarill is a water and fairy type Pokemon. The fast move that you're going to want to use is Bubble. It is okay damage, but really high energy gain. And unlike Altaria in the last video, there are 3 moves that people tend to use for Azumarill, and your choice on which 2 you want to use is probably going to be based on the tournament. If they allow certain types that one of these moves is going to be super effective against, you're probably going to want to bring that. And if there are no typing restrictions for your tournament, then it'll be based on what your team already covers. If you already have an ice Pokemon, you probably don't want to bring Ice Beam, and if it's a heavy tank meta, you're probably going to want to bring Hydro Pump, things like that. So let's go over those moves. It's Ice Beam, Play Rough, and Hydro Pump were the ones that I've mentioned. And Bubble reaches... Well, let's go over Ice Beam first. It takes 5 bubbles to get to your first Ice Beam, and Ice Beam is super effective against Ground, Grass, Flying, and Dragon. Play Rough takes 6 bubbles, and it's going to be super effective against Dark Dragon and Fighting. And then finally we have Hydro Pump, which takes 7 bubbles to get to, and is good against Fire, Rock, and Ground. Now, these are pretty easy ones to remember, just 5, 6, 7, you know. And perfect IVs for an Azumarill for PvP is going to be 8 attack, 15 defense, and 15 stamina. And an Azumarill will max out at level 40 if you have those IVs. Which is why Azumarill is such a good Pokemon, because it can hit level 40 and be under 1500, although I think this is exactly 1500 if you have these stats. So yeah, it's going to be pretty expensive to, as far as Stardust, to level up your Azumarill, since it does get to 40. So I would recommend, if you have a lucky trade with someone, you're not going to have the perfect IVs, but if you're lucky friends with someone, you can get a Azumarill from them and get there with half the Stardust cost. And let's go over the resistances. Because of the double typing, it's resistant to Water, Fire, Ice, Dark, double resistant to Dragon, and then single resisted by Bug and Fighting as well. And it is weak to Electric, Grass, and Poison. The Electric and Grass hitting the Water type of Azumarill, and then the Poison being super effective against the Fairy type. What I have noticed when using Azumarill in any of the tournaments that I've used it in is that with its insane resistances and such good move coverage, it is a safe swap against most teams, meaning that of your team of 3 Pokemon, you can always have Azumarill in the back, and you'll be able to, if you start in a bad matchup in the lead, you'll always have the chance to swap in Azumarill afterwards. I wouldn't say a bad thing, but one thing about Azumarill is that there is no real side grades for Azumarill, and if you have watched the PvP Beginnings videos that I put out a few weeks ago, a side grade is just a Pokemon that does something similar to the current Pokemon at the reduced either Stardust cost or rarity or something of that nature. And there are no real side grades for Azumarill because the typing is so unique, and the charge move coverage is just so good that a lot of Pokemon aren't out there that have this type of coverage. So let's go over the Pokemon that Azumarill is good against, and the first one you might see on there is Azumarill, and you're thinking, how could it be good against Azumarill? So specifically, an Azumarill with Play Rough is always going to win the mirror match against an Azumarill that does not have a Play Rough. So when you think about choosing your moves and you know the enemy is going to be using Azumarill, if you don't have another Pokemon that counters Azumarill, you're probably going to want to use Play Rough as one of your moves just so that you can win that mirror match in case they don't have it. Azumarill is also good against Bastiodon and Altaria, Frostlass, Medicham, Sableye, Skarmory, Umbreon, and then all of the fire types, because Bubble is the fast move is going to be super effective damage, along with, well, depending on which charge move you use. But the Bubble will be doing so much damage that your charge move choice may not matter. And the Pokemon that Azumarill does not do great against is Lantern, either with Charge Beam or Water Gun, Frenzy Plant, Venusaur, Muck because of the Poison type, Poison Jab, and then the Poison Charge moves, and then Tropius with Razor Leaf. I think that the matchup changes a lot if Tropius is the Air Slash version, but you're definitely not going to be able to beat the Razor Leaf version. Alright, so I think that's it for Azumarill. Thanks for watching, and go ahead and subscribe if you want to be in the loop for the next deep dive. Thanks.